First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX and WIBX950.com.
If you lost in the Kentucky Derby and now with a potential disqualification, what that would mean?
Did you have to pay back wherever your winnings were paid out from?
Right. I mean, what do they do? We'll talk about it.
Sorry, I already spent that money.
Okay, matter of fact,
we'll get into it. We'll get into it. Over the weekend, I was we had to pick up my daughter from school. So over the weekend, we decided she had to be picked up early Saturday. So we'd spend the night on Friday night in Manhattan and then go over and get her. So we're not driving all the way down after I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning and all that. So I think my wife's getting a little cocky with the hotel bookings. So it's all been about, you're not going to believe how much I got this room for. And in this case, it was like almost $100 even for a room.
Oh, my gosh.
The problem is we stayed in the area where apparently everyone who couldn't get out of the city was still at in Hell's Kitchen. And it was a little rough. And we'll talk about that. And by the way, when the people are asking for money on the street now, it used to be they'd be polite and be like, well, if you didn't give to them, you just keep going and they'd keep going. Now it's like, what, you got a problem? You have a problem with me? You've never been on hard times before? And he's like following me down the street as I'm driving down the street.
Oh, my goodness. While you're driving?
Yes.
Was he in a car next to you?
And I have a new vehicle, so I'm trying to figure out how to roll the window up. And it's not second nature for me right now. Anyway, we'll talk about that. Pfizer, the first company to seek full FDA approval for the corona vaccine. And Tonya J. Powers is standing by on the line right now. I was in your neck of the woods, not specifically your neck of the woods. Tonya, good morning.
Good morning. I've heard about that there, and I'm very sorry that you experienced something less than our hospitality that we normally have.
I mean, and normally even the people that are asking for money are polite. It didn't happen there. So, what are you going to do?
Terrible. I'm sorry.
We saved a ton of money, though. I got to tell you.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. Okay, so basically, what we have is emergency approval going on right now. Everything up to this point has really not been approved by the FDA when it comes to the vaccine. What's going on with Pfizer here?
The full approval, yeah, you're right. This has been the emergency use authorization that was granted in December, remember. This is, when a medical product like a vaccine gets a special authorization to be used in an emergency. This was due to the seriousness of what was going on with the pandemic. It takes less time than a full approval, that kind of thing. But as a condition of the whole emergency use authorization, the companies that, were applying for this emergency use authorization had to be working toward the full authorization part, which is a whole different thing. To apply for a full FDA approval, they've got to submit a different application. They have to give them data on their manufacturing processes, the facilities, stuff that basically backs up their claim that the vaccine can be produced reliably and consistently. So they've got to basically show, okay, not only were we able to ramp up and get enough out for the emergency part, but we can keep this up. We can keep, manufacturing this and making enough so when there's, for the demand that we, may or may not have.
Right.
They're going to give this to the FDA, all this data over the next several weeks on a rolling basis, and then the FDA will look at this. I'm seeing 6 months is what it could take for them to get the full approval. It usually takes something like 10 months. So when we're talking about a lot was made of and especially in the fall and before the vaccines came out of how long a vaccine takes. It usually takes years and years. Well, a chunk of that time is getting full FDA approval, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's one of the things that they've kind of like leapfrogged ahead with this emergency use part, and now they've got the data that they've been compiling, and they're going to submit all of that. This could do a couple of things. This full FDA approval could have an effect on vaccine mandates. So some schools and other organizations have said that they plan to require vaccination against COVID, but only after it's gotten full approval from the FDA, not the emergency use part. It could also have an effect on people who are hesitant to get the vaccine. There was apparently a Kaiser Family Foundation survey that was done, I think last week is when it was released. It says 15% of American adults have gotten this like wait-and-see sort of approach to the COVID vaccine, saying, it doesn't have full approval from the FDA. I'm not going to take it until it does. So there could be a few more people at least on board after it gets the full approval who have kind of been hesitant to get a shot.
Right. So now it's now you're able to say this is FDA approved and it's a different deal. Okay.
But then again, that's not till what, October, November, 6 months from now.
Yeah, it could be a while. But I mean, again, you're talking about the Pfizer vaccine, which the clinical trials had already shown us that it was like 95% effective,
right.
And now they've got the published data from like real world stuff where a lot of people have actually gotten it, the shots in their arms, and it says that it's they reported last month that trial results have shown that it still is at least 91% effective against the disease with any symptoms for 6 months. There, of course, there's the virus variants. They do say that some of the research that they've done recently, it shows that it is effective against those as well. So, again, this is, Pfizer going for their full FDA approval. That could be,
all right.
Like you said, it could be a few more months.
Yeah. Okay, well, listen, the more people that get this thing, the better off we're going to be, and maybe this will help. That would be certainly a good thing. So, All right, interesting stuff, Tonya. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.
Tonya J. Powers at Fox News. So on this Kentucky Derby thing, what do we know here?
Well, that the horse, since the race, has tested positive. Bob Baffert, a very renowned trainer, has now been...
he's been suspended, right?
Yeah, my understanding is he's suspended from the track. Let me see if the wording here. Baffert was told his horse tested positive for betamethasone, I believe is how it's pronounced. Churchill Downs suspending Bob Baffert. Yeah, I guess maybe that's just part of it triggers a suspension if you have a positive test.
Now, he's denying it. Of course. But
is a horse?
I don't know how this could change any bets, right?
Well, it's interesting. Andrew had asked the question, do you have to give the money back? The answer is, I'm going to tell you no, because anybody who got money, you just simply wouldn't go back to the OTB and say, hey, you paid me 2 weeks ago. You just keep your mouth shut. You'd keep your money. There's no way they could enforce that.
But then you have people who, like I placed a small bet on Twin Spires. Which is an app on your phone, and it automatically would deduct from your account. It'll automatically pay you by putting money into your account. So I'd ask the question, if this changes my bet, where now all of a sudden I've won, will there be money put into my account? Probably not. There should be,
though.
Yeah, I agree. And why did it take so long?
I know.
Yeah,
I think I always thought these tests come back within a day or two,
or before the race. Like you'd find out beforehand.
Well, that's the weird thing. I think they test the horse before, but you don't get the results right. I don't know what it would be. I don't know why they wouldn't have that, all ahead of time so that you would prevent this possible scenario from happening.
They don't have rapid tests. Come on, we've got them over at MV right now.
Unless it's something that you have to determine. If there's a certain window of time that it takes for the drug to be in the system, and
I guess
I don't know,
but I just and we'll see what Brandon Lang has to say later on this morning. But I just don't know how they would be able to reverse any of this, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if, like on the Twin Spires app or at the OTB, there's some sign or on the back of your ticket that says any errors, any changes, any discrepancies, that is just after a certain period of time. Once the race is official, something like that.
Right.
That would prevent anybody from being able to go back and say, well, wait a minute, that turns out wasn't the winner.
Yeah, because, if the history books go down that it's Mandaloon and I don't know who came third would obviously get bumped to second, and you had a paying ticket. I say everybody, NBA, MLB, NFL, all these sports, NHL now, they're all kind of opening their arms to the whole betting field.
Yeah,
but horse racing has been in it for forever.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea that you could actually have the first and second horse reflected in the history books, and that's how you bet, but you never got paid on it, I think is going to discourage people from voting. I don't know how many people, but
from betting. Yeah,
from voting. Yeah, from betting.
Yeah, they're not going to vote either. They're like, we don't trust anything where there's tabulation. Nothing. I don't know how this. What do you do in this situation? This is really. And remember, it was last year, or the year before, they had the disqualification, but that happened like right at the end of the race.
Right. It was a determination of people watching the race that he had cut off a horse or something.
So we're sitting there watching that in real time, like thinking you won, but maybe you didn't, and then turns out you didn't, or maybe you did. But I just don't know how they handle this.
I wouldn't be surprised for betting apps that were taking bets on the Derby, like Twin Spires, that if you had actually won, they'll do something for you because they want to obviously keep and encourage additional business.
Yeah,
So we had
an app is different than going to an OTB window.
Somebody just called up, didn't want to go on the air, but he said he used to work at Vernon Downs, and they test the horses after the race. They'll do urine and blood samples of the horse, and it goes to a lab, and sometimes it takes a week or two to get the results.
Wow!
And they only he said they only test. At least this is how they do it at Vernon Downs, or how they did when he worked there. They would test the first, second, and third place winners, and then a random horse in the field, and that's how they would decide.
So there is a precedence for this. What did he say? What they do with the betting?
Not with that. He was because he only works specifically to with the horses and the vet staff.
Okay, but at Vernon Downs, that could mean that someone could have won on a Tuesday night, but by next Tuesday night, we find out they really didn't win. I think those people have to keep their money, and I think once the race is, I just could only imagine that once the race is final. But you may see like certain organizations, like Twin Spires, come back and say, all right, if you were a winner, we're gonna pay you, or if you were a winner, we're gonna give you credit, or something to be able to make it seem like turn this into a positive. Right?
It's not just the winner; it's the exacta boxes, it's the trifectas,
everything.
Everything.
It's crazy. Hi, Kathy is a racing lover.
She's our racing correspondent.
She's our expert. Good morning, Kathy. What do you know?
Good morning. Oh, I was dumbfounded. The last few days I haven't paid too much attention to the Derby winner, but when I heard it last night on the nightly news, I guess I wasn't surprised. Baffert's had his problems with horses with certain drugs. Your previous caller been called in. It takes a while. All the horses get tested after each race.
So, what do you think happens with the bets?
I would imagine that everybody keeps the money the way it is. I think so too. As far as the Derby place winners and everything, first, second, I think the money stays the same, but the win gets taken away.
Yeah. I like I guess it wasn't legal to bet on college sports when Boeheim was in his winning all those games, and then the NCAA came in and took the wins away.
Right.
If there was legalized betting, which there would be in Vegas, I can't imagine that somebody, if Syracuse beat Duke, but now the win has been taken away, I can't imagine that they'd be able to go back to Vegas and say.
I believe probably this horse was just a fluke on winning.
Yeah.
I don't think, but it's a shame because it's such an important race.
And it's
between
right
2 years ago and then last year things got changed around. It's just not the
a lot of chaos. A lot of chaos, right?
So I'm looking forward to the Preakness, but it kind of just I don't know how to say it. It just takes it right out of the air.
It takes the wind right out of the air. The wind out of your sails. Yeah.
I don't know.
Sails,
My
no
husband
wind.
seems to think that he sees Baffer and he says, he looks a little crooked. So, I mean, I don't know. Who's to say?
All right.
But he's had problems with horses coming up would test with.
Well, I would
drugs.
think that he should be more than suspended, right?
Yes, I
mean,
would.
I think you should be banned if you're knowingly doing this. Then has he had problems before? I think maybe he has, right?
Yes, he has.
Yeah.
But the problem is, will it hold up? Certain tracks will suspend certain trainers from racing, but then you go somewhere else. Not all. Some tracks will say, well, you got suspended, you're not racing here either.
Right.
And then you've got other tracks that say, well, as long as everything's on the up and up with the drug test.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to wait and see.
Interesting stuff. Okay,
Definitely.
Kathy, thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Wow. Do you agree? I don't know how they would. Does this change your situation?
No, I lost anyway.
You lost any. Either way.
Actually, I didn't even put a bet in last week. By the way, it was April 30th. No, excuse me. It was May 1st was the Derby, and the Preakness is coming up this Saturday.
Okay, so 10 days ago.
It doesn't.
My guess is once the race is official, I think the bets would be official, and I don't know how they would be able to go back on that.
But the thing I find interesting is, okay, so they pay out and they've paid out, so now it's over. But a lot of, and they're not prohibited from doing this, a lot of Bob Bafferts out there, trainers and owners, will place money on the horse, So it's almost like as long as you can be declared the winner on race day and cash that check.
That's all that matters.
Who cares if you get disqualified 10 days later?
Unless you bet with a side corner bookie where, like, Johnny, I'm going to kill you.
Mikey, you owe me money.
It turns out you didn't win. You got to bring the money back. And who's going to say no to that?
Yeah, right.
Dan in Westmoreland. Hi, Dan. What's going on?
Good morning. So this is how it works. There's going to be no change for batters.
Okay.
They've already paid it out, and that's the end. And for example, I had Mandaloon, who was second, who would be first, right?
Right.
And then I actually had the horses that were second and third. They threw out Medina Spirit. They're not paying anybody anything. The only thing that will happen with Medina Spirit is that they'll forfeit the purse money, and then Mandaloon will get the winning money of that. But in terms of betting, it's over. They've already paid it out. You get nothing. It sucks, but that's the way it is.
So once it's official, that's what it is. And maybe it doesn't stink because maybe you won and shouldn't have won.
Right. Well, if you had Medina Spirit, you already paid. But in terms of changing the payouts to the batters, that doesn't happen. That's
all right. Okay, Dan, thanks. We appreciate it.
All right, you're welcome.
The insight there, pretty cool. Pretty cool if you won. Not so cool if you didn't win, right? But how else would they do it? You couldn't get in touch with anybody. You'd have people who threw their tickets away. I mean, it must be once the race is, and that's why they'll always say at the end of a race, everything is unofficial. It's unofficial, and your bet never shows up on at least on the app until everything is gone official. And then it shows up.
I just have to wonder what type of
your winnings
this has on the Preakness coming up this weekend, because, again, there's this lingering question about, if I win, whatever. I just, it's kind of a head-scratcher. I will say this, though. It's probably not likely, unless you bet on an app. This is just, I guess, my opinion, but I've never saved a ticket after I've won. I mean, usually you watch the race.
Right.
You had 3, 4, 7, 2, 5, 8 comes in, you just rip your ticket in half
angrily
and throw it out. Yeah. Not too many people. It's not like if you some people say with scratch-offs, if you won a big payout from New York State, but you could prove that you had all these losing tickets, they would actually count against what you would have to pay in taxes. I don't think it's like that in horse racing. I got 50 losing Kentucky Derby tickets. So
Jeff says not only can't you really ask for the money back from those that won, but now you have to look at anyone who still has a ticket for the new winner and have to pay that out, right? But no, there won't be. I don't believe there'll be any payout. That if like Dan who just called in now after the change. His horse actually was the winner, but not on the official closing time or whatever happens. He'll get no money back. So he says. And then Rob asks, what about winning the Triple Crown? All tickets are final, but he can be disqualified. Winners, money paid back and given to the number 2 winner. So That's really what Dan said, is that the horse and the horse owner, any winnings that happen there, that will change. But as for anybody that bet, there will be no change.
And as it relates to the Kentucky Derby, I mean, Amanda Loon will get the win, have an opportunity for the Triple Crown, but and what is it? Medina Spirit won't be racing. I don't believe. I believe Medina. I'm 100% sure won't be in the Preakness, won't be in the
right.
the Belmont.
Yeah. How about the New York Mets are 7-3 in their last 10 games?
Hey, now they've won 5 straight games.
Yeah.
Bad news though. DeGrom left with tightness on his right side yesterday. It was interesting. Again,
and he still pitched incredibly well.
Yeah, he did. He did look good. They had a little odd thing. I don't know if you saw the game where the center fielder, so Pilar and Conforto. You remember when Mike Cameron and Carlos Beltran collided head first, both diving for a ball?
Yeah.
It was this close to being that again. What ended up happening is they did miss each other, but Conforto's his cleat kicked Pilar in the face, so there was a little delay in the game. The Mets also got another run via the bases-loaded walk. It's our new favorite way to score.
Yeah, apparently.
But they got a win, sweep Arizona, 5 straight wins, and then they're off tonight. Unfortunately, you got no Mets, no Yankees tonight. The Mets will host Baltimore tomorrow to start a 2-game series.
And the Yankees are red hot right now.
They are. They've won. Oh, I missed it. They've won several games in a row, or many of their last several games.
This is why I get so angry.
Carlos Stanton's on fire.
Angry when somebody says, Yankees fans say, "Oh, we're terrible this year." Then they turn around and go on a tear. It's just, you can't count that team out. All right, Rachel Sutherland standing by right now. So the April unemployment numbers were not all that positive. So the question is, are we in the middle of a comeback, a financial comeback, or is unemployment getting in the way? Rachel, good morning.
Yeah, there's a couple of schools of thought here on this. There's 266,000 jobs, way short of the estimate of 1 million for the month of April. So the question is, what is going on? And the administration is saying that, look, this is basically a marathon. It's going to take a while to bring these jobs back. The Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen putting it on, look, there are a lot of stay-at-home or working-at-home parents or at-home parents who, about 54% of schools in the elementary and middle categories are open.
Yeah.
That leaves a lot of schools closed, and it's tough to get back to work. Republicans are saying it's the expanded unemployment benefits, which, by the way, run out in September, and that with the extra $300 a week that they're making, people just aren't turned on to going back to work. I mean, I see job postings and a lot of help wanted signs, but these may be the kind of jobs where people feel more at risk to go out if they're doing service jobs. And so Ben Sass, the Republican there, is going to introduce legislation that would convert this extra unemployment into a signing bonus for people to take jobs.
Well, I think something has to be done because it is a real problem. And it's easy to gloss over this and say there are all these jobs out there. These people should get back to work. Where it does get a little complicated is you might have been making far more money, and are you going to go out and if you're making $75,000 a year, are you going to go out and be all that incentivized to take a job as a waiter or something like that?
Or something that you just is not in your field.
Right.
And maybe people are still looking for the jobs that they had before. There's probably a lot of different factors, but the president is going to be speaking on the economy 1:15 this afternoon from the East Room. I don't know if he'll take questions, but certainly it might do well for him to address all the factors that are leading to this, because that is almost the biggest discrepancy I've ever seen, with economists forecasting 1 million jobs and coming in at 266,000.
We have there's one restaurant here that I'm most familiar with that is just every night, always packed. It's open 7 days a week. But now all of a sudden, for the first time ever, they're closing on Mondays. And it says right on their sign, the reason is they've help wanted. They don't have enough people, enough staff to stay open 7 days a week. So,
I can attest to that with just Mother's Day being yesterday, trying to find, all the restaurants are just so overwhelmed.
Yep.
There's no staff.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Interesting stuff. Thank you, Rachel. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Rachel Sutherland from Fox News. Did you guys do any big Mother's Day dinners or anything? We had a debacle. I can't say. I would never say where, but
Okay, now
the worst. I've never seen it so bad.
My mother was
I could have taken the mashed potatoes and thrown the ball of mashed potatoes at you, and it would have knocked you out. Yeah, and given you frostbite. Let me just say, we were there for an hour. The butter hadn't melted by the time we left, so there was just
was the heat not working at the place, or
I don't know what was going on. I don't know what was going on.
You did dinner or brunch?
Dinner. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, mashed potatoes.
Some call it that.
Yeah.
We had to go to another place to finish dinner. But, you know. And you get it. I get it. You're dealing with a pandemic and you're dealing with... But there's a difference between... I don't think more employees would make this situation any better. And there are no employees. This is bad because of that. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. It wasn't a labor issue, is what you're saying.
Oh, I think it was a labor issue.
Yeah.
But it was not a
lack of
pandemic labor issue,
yeah, okay.
I don't think.
So it was just you and your wife or the whole family?
Everybody, yeah.
Oh, boy. Yeah, so we're talking 8 people, maybe 10 people?
Only 5 of us.
Oh,
for this.
5.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, because maybe somebody got overwhelmed, with having so many people, but...
There was no doubt they were shorthanded. There's no doubt about it. But when you feel like, yeah, it was a tough situation, they were shorthanded. But if there were more people there, that it would have gotten any better. That's how I feel. It wouldn't have gotten any better. Well, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Well, just
we enjoy.
You enjoy the time you spent together. That's the key, right?
Just pay the bill and go to another restaurant.
Who says potatoes have to be warm? I mean, that just could be one of those unwritten things that is stupid. Like, have you had cold potatoes before? Pretty good. They were pretty good. Cold potatoes are pretty good. And actually, it helped me anyway because I'm not supposed to eat them anyway. Not on my diet.
Look at you all bright-siding it.
Trying to look at it that way.
On a Monday morning.
I really felt bad.
Rain's coming down.
I was saddened by the whole thing, especially knowing the history of where we went. It has a rich history, and it was pretty sad. But I'm sure there were other places that worked their tails off and put on incredible meals.
Interesting.
We didn't choose those places. Well, what are you going to do?
Is this a place you're familiar with?
It's a place you're familiar with. But I don't want to go. I don't want to do any hints. No hints.
Okay,
I'm just wondering.
I'll just wait until you tell us off the air.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if it was like, have you had a bad experience there before? So this is strike 2 or strike 3, or if this was a...
No hints.
You were surprised?
I'm not going to say any more.
Were you surprised at the level,
I was surprised. Okay. Yeah, I really was. Of course. Otherwise, would we have gone?
Right. No.
Right?
I'm just saying, like, if it's a place you've been to before that you've had enjoyable meals in the past.
It is.
Sure.
Yeah.
I love the characterization, enjoyable meals. Did you enjoy your meal?
And Mike says, regarding that Mother's Day dinner, did you prepare it? No, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. Okay, and then was there a McNeil and Lindor? Something happened a couple of games ago, and everybody were running into the dugout, and we don't really know what happened, but they're saying there might have been a scuffle between the two.
Yeah, I believe they've made up. But I was watching the game. I think it was Friday night. And they were saying, "Oh yeah, there are people between them in the dugout." And I was kind of in the other room. I overheard it.
Yeah.
And then at some point when they were coming off the field, it looked like everybody was making up. There was like a little half hug or something. But yeah, it's interesting because Lindor's making a ton of money, and was he betting 175 or something ridiculous?
He does seem to be coming around a bit.
He had a big hit Friday night. Certainly, the 2-run homer was huge. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think if they're literally fist fighting in the dugout, that's not a good thing. But maybe a little fire is what they need.
A little feistiness, yeah. Brandon Lang coming up in a bit. We'll talk about Medina Spirit, the drug test, which results in this whole mess. But it looks like it's pretty obvious at this point there won't be any changes in betting. If you won and that horse was disqualified or ends up being disqualified, you will still win. That's what it seems like. We'll confirm that with Lang coming up. Also, Dr. Kent Hall is on with an update. We have John Calabrese is on. We were talking about employment, and there's a company that's working like crazy to get people to work, and it's so different now from what it was like 30 years ago when unemployment was high and there were no jobs out there. Now, unemployment is probably high, but there are a ton of jobs out there. Crazy as we look at him. And you'll remember he was from Rome. The accidental gangster is going to be appearing at the Mob Museum. It is in Vegas, but there's a virtual opportunity for you, so you could actually take advantage of it. Orlando Spado is insurance salesman to Hollywood, quote, fixer in the mob. And he's written a book, and we'll chat with him again today about his event, his Q&A event that's going to be happening at the Mob Museum. It's come a long way, right, when the mobsters are actually having sit-downs.
Yeah.
At the museum.
And question and answer things at museums. And there's a mob museum. What has happened to the world? What has happened to the mob? We'll get to all that coming up here this morning. Also, Habaika's free money question of the day. We'll take your phone calls as well, whatever you have for this Monday morning. And I will say there is a bit of a change in the forecast, like a bit of a warm-up. And what looked like was going to be rain every single day, now I see more predominantly sunshine, right?
Yeah. I don't see much rain at all for the week, all the way through Sunday.
Well, wouldn't that be nice?
It's a bit warmer than they had said at the end of last week, too.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not mowing your lawn, you have a jungle in your yard right now because we've had so much rain. And the grass is a-growing here.